Я хотел бы к микрофону пригласить Чарльза Рейли, первого вице-президента Международного института лосс-аджастинга. Спасибо.
I'd like to thank everyone for allowing me to be part of this great program. And my presentation will be on the market in the U.S. as it relates to the loss adjusting profession and how it's regulated and the like, and how our profession responds to the natural disasters that unfortunately hit our country in a variety of ways. I'm going to this is a quick overview of the U.S. In terms of its size, the population of the U.S., its gross domestic production, its trading partners, and the like, and what the median household income is for a citizen of the United States. The market is pretty large. Our net premiums for 2015 industry-wide for both property and casualty and life and health were $1.2 trillion, and we have approximately, 2,500 property and casualty insurers. We also have about 1,800 life and health insurers, as well as risk retention groups and fraternal organizations who have an insurance capacity. So from an economic standpoint, the insurance industry contributes over $450 billion to the U.S. GDP. It employs approximately 2 million people in the industry, invests $1.5 trillion into the economy, and also is taxed at a rate of around 19 or so billion per year. As of 2015, we had approximately 39 catastrophes that affected the property and businesses in the U.S. This is at a glance of what the market looks like currently in terms of the largest insurers in the U.S. These are the top 10, and primarily I'd say about half of the companies that are listed are in the homeowners area. So there'd be household goods, houses, dwellings, car, and the like. So that gives you a perspective in terms of where they are. The State Farm Mutual Insurance Company has about 10% of the U.S. market, and they write primarily in all 50 U.S. states. This is a slide on the top 10 life and health companies that operate in the United States and their percentages in terms of market share. Let's see. There is a number of allied claims groups that operate in the United States. This one outfit is called the Association of Claims Professionals. They recently did a survey of the U.S. market and found that there was about 125,000 active claim professionals, 70% of which are employed by insurers. About 30% would be acting as independent adjusters. This is a little bit of a Marsh McLennan's Global Index Market report, and I'll go to a couple of slides here. For the last about 4 years, we've been on a price pressure both in the U.S. and in the worldwide market, where premiums are coming down due to the amount of capital in the insurance marketplace. That may change in the event of a series of catastrophes and the like, but currently the rates are quite competitive on a commercial as well as a residential area. This slide also shows the rates of decline in the various countries around the world. The South American countries have the least changed versus the rest of the European market and the U.S. market. In terms of regulation, the U.S. Operates on a different platform. We're a constitutional republic, and we have 50 states and 5 U.S. possessions. In 1945, there was an act of Congress where they exempted the business of insurance from regulation by the federal government and allowed the states, individual states or provinces, to regulate the business of insurance. However, there are a few federally sponsored programs, and they are the National Flood Insurance Program, the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, and the Federal Insurance Office. I'll talk about a couple of these. The National Flood Insurance Program was initiated in 1968 because the peril of flood was not a peril that the standard insurance market wished to address. From a terms of an underwriting perspective, it did not give a good spread of risk. The potential for losses were very large, and as a result, there would not be sufficient numbers to spread the risk and make a profit on the insurance policy. So in 1968, they established a federal flood program that supplies individuals and businesses with a minimum amount of insurance to protect them from the disaster of flood. Currently, that program is, while successful in certain terms, is a financial disaster, and it's currently about $25 billion in debt to the U.S. Treasury. So that act is currently being up for renewal and will be investigated by our elected officials in the next year. The Terrorism Risk Insurance Act was established after the 2001 9/11 event, and basically it offers the insurance marketplace a reinsurance platform for the insurers who offer terrorist coverage for large buildings and other types of facilities that would be a terrorist target. Lastly, the Federal Insurance Office was created after the recession of 2008-2009, and what that's done is it's offered an insurance review by our national banking system, our Federal Reserve Bank, to oversee probably systemic risks in investments that insurance companies may have been involved in. AIG is an example with their the CBOs and the like. So that was established to assist the Federal Reserve, our national bank, to properly analyze where the insurers are investing. So in the event of a financial catastrophe, that the insurance system would be in good stead. Okay, that's going to. So our state governments, our 50 states, have all their own insurance departments and regulators. Some, I think 33 of our states have adjusting licensing requirements or regulations. The other states do not have that, but typically the state insurance departments are the ones that regulate the industry. A lot of the state licensing requirements require adjusters, loss adjusters, to be maintain in order to maintain their license, to have continuing education credits. By that, you'll have to attend certain classes during the course of the year that are recognized by the various departments that regulate the adjusters. The 4 largest state markets in the U.S. are California, New York, Texas, and Florida, and that's because that's where our biggest population are in those states. I kind of brushed over this, but this is a slide for outlining the 33 states that require licenses and the like. So in order to practice in the spirit of the law, and if you are an adjuster who works for a company that does multi-jurisdictional loss adjusting work, you have to be licensed in the various jurisdictions. There are reciprocity rules that are in effect by the different states. So if you're in my home state, which is in New York, they may have reciprocity with the state of Florida. So that's how that works. And then we have a number of professional associations and societies that make up the interested and professionals. Our first is similar to your NAIA, and that's the National Association of Independent Insurance Adjusters. And that's a group of about 300 or so firms with over 1,600 professionals that service all 50 states. The Association of Claims Professionals is a combine of the larger TPAs and adjustment firms and the like, and they are currently looking to legislate through our federal government to have a national licensing law that would supersede the state requirements. That has just been introduced to our Congress, and I'm not sure at this point in time if it will go through or not. Then there's three other associations. The Loss Executives Association is a group of insurance company senior officials, along with interested loss adjusters, legal experts, as well as forensic accountants that meet twice every year and discuss and debate the changes in the industry and how to best affect the problems that are associated with the loss adjusting profession and the industry in general. And then a few of you here are probably aware of or members of the International Association of Claims Professionals. And then in the U.S., we have a group called the Society of Registered Professional Adjusters, which would be similar to CELA in the UK. This is a little highlight on the National Association of Independent Insurance Adjusters and the like. And it's interesting to note that this company in the early 2000s led an initiative to establish a risk retention group to ensure adjusters' errors and omissions and exposure, and it's been quite successful and the like. So that's something unique to that particular group. And as my esteemed colleague from Kuwaiti mentioned earlier, the National Association of Independent Insurance Adjusters has the same outlook in terms of credibility, serving the marketplace and the like, and with dignity and the utmost regard for the policyholder, regulators, and our fellow adjusters. Okay. Also, there are the state associations. Our states also have state trade associations, and here are the three biggest that affect the U.S. Loss adjusters market, and they're based in California, Texas, and New York. In terms of designations, the only designation that is afforded by the groups, the societies I previously mentioned, are the registered professional adjusters, and they afford the designation RPA, and that would be similar to a chartered loss adjuster out of the UK with CELA. Basically, what we're seeing now in the US is that major colleges and universities, probably 25 to 30, are now offering risk management degrees and the like, which focus on underwriting, claims, marketing, policy creation, et cetera. And so that's becoming a bigger focal point for a lot of the big colleges and universities that focus on a business degree. We also have what's called the institutes, which was formerly known as the American Insurance Institutes, and that particular entity affords designations such as CPCU, AIC, which are similar to a lot of the designations that Kuwaiti has, as well as CELA. And the last group is the American Education Institute, which also has a number of designations, more on the legal end than the claims end, but they do have a few designations that represent the claims industry. I just want to highlight a few things here that affect the U.S., and hurricanes are the big one. And Hurricane Harvey, who recently hit the Texas and Louisiana area, is being talked about as being as big as Hurricane Katrina. Insurable losses are projected at 30 to 50 billion. Uninsured losses are up to about 100 billion. That event was atypical from a hurricane standpoint, where the hurricane stalled over Houston, and over a period of 4 days, they had over 50 inches of rain. So normal areas which were never were flooded, and unfortunately, a lot of the people and businesses that were affected did not have insurance. So, however, because of the amount of capital that's in the marketplace today, investment analysts on Wall Street and who monitor the industry do not indicate that Harvey will have a financial impact on a lot of the insurers. So this is some of the information in terms of that particular storm. Houston, Texas is our fourth largest city in the United States. When it came ashore, it was a Cat 3 storm, and it caused a lot of damage. But let's see. Okay. Hurricane Irma, which was forecasted to hit the Miami, Florida area, which is a very big southern city in the United States that has a lot of high-end, high-value properties that surround it and the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. And fortunately for the industry, that particular hurricane did not hit the Miami area. In the last 12 hours, it went west instead of east, and so Miami was served a glancing blow. However, that particular hurricane was very large in scope. And to give you an idea, Florida is about 150 miles wide. It's a large peninsula, and that hurricane affected the entire state. So while it lost its energy when it hit land, it did impact the residents and businesses throughout the state in varying degrees. But that's going to be an expensive storm too, and that's basically it. We do have two other hurricanes that are out in the Atlantic. Hurricane Jose, which appears to be not going to be hitting the United States, and we have Hurricane Marie, who's tracking, who may just go out into the ocean. But if it does, that's great. If it doesn't, then the insurance industry has a lot of work on their hands. But so that concludes my comments on the U.S. market, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. Коллеги, пожалуйста, вопрос.
Берестинский Владислав, ПСК, страховая компания. Вопрос следующий. В ситуации, когда американские страховщики столкнулись с ситуацией, когда требуется урегулирование большого числа убытков в частном секторе, какие специальные процедуры, технологии, упрощенное регулирование используются? Это первый вопрос. И второй, оказывает ли пострадавшим, в том числе потерявшим жилье людям, помощь материальную федеральное правительство, именно финансовую помощь в ситуациях, когда, может быть, жилье не застраховано, оказалось, представляется ли взамен какая-то компенсация, оказывается?
That's a very good question. What happens in the states with the insurers? Most states require disaster planning where the insurance companies have to speak with the regulators and outline what their proposition is to respond to policyholders after a natural or other disaster. If, depending on the carrier, if it's a large carrier, they'll probably have a catastrophe agreement with a series of adjusting firms who get together pre-loss and determine the amount of policies that may be affected in a certain geographical area. Typically, a lot of U.S. insurers are very cautious about writing insurance in coastal areas because of these types of storms. So they try to put things together so that there's an orderly process when the claims come in after a catastrophe, where there are committed adjusters from different firms that works exclusively for that particular company. In regards to responding to people who are not insured, for the example I gave earlier about floods. Unfortunately, there's not a lot out there. The U.S. government does provide some assistance in terms of loans to people who are uninsured, but it's a lot of times there may be funding from banks who have a mortgage on a property, who may lend the involved household some funds to start reconstruction efforts and the like. But that's something that unfortunately is limited at the very least.
Я постараюсь объяснить, почему этот вопрос прозвучал. Мы находимся сейчас накануне принятия российского закона, который должен разграничить помощь государства тем гражданам, которые пострадали или чье имущество было утрачено в результате катастрофических событий. Сейчас есть федеральный закон, который предусматривает безусловную выплату со стороны федерального бюджета определенной суммы каждому пострадавшему за утрату своего жилья, домашнего имущества, ну и какие-то расходы на возможное перемещение. Сейчас планируется сделать закон, который должен один инструмент добавить еще и инструментом коммерческого страхования. Собственно, поэтому нам интересно знать опыт в этом виде деятельности в других странах. Я хотел бы задать вопрос по поводу специфических требований к лосс-аджастерам со стороны либо федерального правительства, либо правительств штатов. В частности, есть ли требования по professional liability, по профессиональной ответственности, по каким-то дополнительным гарантиям по качеству, по экспертизе их работы.
Currently, there is no federal regulation for loss adjusters within the United States. States do not require, some states require their loss adjusters to be bonded, a fidelity bond, in the event that they're either sued or arrested for malfeasance. Most professional associations that an adjuster who would be a part of do require errors and omissions insurance. So, for instance, the National Association of Independent Insurance Adjusters does require to be a member to have errors and omissions insurance, but it's not required by the regulators.
Это требование от ассоциации,
Correct.
Спасибо. Коллеги.
Вы знаете, мне кажется, уже регламент немножко нас поджимает.
А у нас есть рука.
Я коротко, Георгий Осипов. Вы сказали, что лицензирование отдано на уровень штатов. В связи с этим вот два вопроса коротких. Ограничивает ли это страховщика, страховую компанию, в выборе эджастера для работы по случаю? То есть получается, что страховая компания должна найти эджастера с лицензией в конкретном штате. если это так. И второй вопрос, вот те программы образования, которые существуют, обеспечивают они адекватный уровень квалификации, ну, как у нас говорят, на местах, в удаленных штатах, в штатах, в которых убытки происходят не очень часто, то назначая в удаленном месте эксперта, можно ли ожидать, что уровень его квалификации будет соответствующим задачам?
Very good question. And I don't believe, to your first part of your question, I don't believe that licensing restricts insurers from selecting a proper and qualified loss adjuster. In regards to handling losses in remote or faraway regions, we see that a lot in the U.S. Mining operations, timber operations, paper pulp mill operations do require, usually in remote areas of my country, I'm sure the same is here in Russia. And those types of losses are specialized and do require a specialized adjuster and his expert team to adjudicate and adjust those losses. So in regards to qualifications, yes, I think that the materials that our various societies offer and the coursework that's required to obtain those designations do provide a qualified, a competent person handling cases in the U.S.